I want to welcome all of our international guests coming to Israel. Thank you for your efforts. I would like to thank our partners for helping us make it happen. And we are always trying to improve these conferences, and feel free to contact me, not now, but after the event, and give me some feedback, hopefully on the upside. But I really am looking forward to contact and discussing, and always on the look for improvement. I'm happy to announce my next conference. I hope this one goes well. But I'm happy to announce my next conference will be Martech and SailTech, Israel Martech and SailTech conference on February 8th. So you'll get the email next week. I hope you're not getting any emails. And I'm happy to call Oren Todoros, our MC for today. Thank you for coming, Oren. Oren is the CEO and founder of Big Intro. Big Intro is a visual content agency for B2B and B2C industries. So feel free to contact him after the event. I highly recommend it. So without any other delay, Oren, please.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for being here this morning, and thank you Ariel for putting this together. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic event. So without further ado, let's start it off with our keynote speaker, Mr. David KULCZAR, Senior Offering Manager at IBM Watson, who is here to talk about uncovering dark data in video with AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Oren. Let me grab my clicker. So as Oren mentioned, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a lot of what IBM's done with media over the last really couple of years. We kind of started taking this journey a few months ago, and we've had a couple of really big events and announcements, and I want to take you guys through some of what we've done over the last few months, because I think when people think of IBM, they don't just generally think as a big player in either video or in the media and entertainment space, and that's changing rapidly, and I think we've done some exciting things that you'll be interested in. So that gives you a little bit of a kind of a teaser of what we're going to talk about. It shows some of the different events we've done, and I'll talk in more detail about some of those. And then after the presentation, please, or once we have breaks, please come speak to us at the booth across the main hall here. We'd love to have deeper conversations on really any topic around this. Old slide. So really what I wanted to talk about first here is the history of IBM in artificial intelligence. I think most people are aware of some of the key milestones here, but the first one I'd like to talk about is where IBM applied not really artificial intelligence, but the power of cognitive computing and the power of big data to defeat Garry Kasparov, the grand chess champion, in 1997. That's not a Watson application, but it really is where IBM started pivoting and focusing on how we could use computing and technology to solve grand challenges. Things that no one ever thought were possible before started to become possible through technological advancements and just the power of how people think, and IBM was at the forefront of a lot of this. The next key milestone that most people are aware of was the Jeopardy Grand Challenge, where similarly, Ken Jennings and the other major Jeopardy champions, maybe slightly more of a US tilt here, but some of you guys I'm sure have heard of the Jeopardy Grand Challenge, where Watson quickly defeated and handily defeated really all of the greatest Jeopardy champions in 2011. Where we took the technology from there was, how do we start to monetize it? How do we apply Watson to not just do sort of more gimmicky game-related type activities, but how do we start applying it to solve the challenges that face all of us every day? And so our CEO, Ginny Rometty, felt very strongly that the place to focus was in healthcare. So we quickly started seeing how we could apply Watson and Watson-based technologies to solve problems like a solution for cancer, and how could we help with diagnosis of very complex medical issues. So that's really where we started taking it next. And then over time, we started trying to roll it out to other industries to the point where we are today, where we launched the Watson Media group at the US Open this year. So the goal of my team, IBM Watson Media, is to take these technologies and figure out how we can apply them both to media as a component, video in general, as well as to media and entertainment companies to help them solve challenges in new ways. And we'll talk about some of those. So as I mentioned, we launched our group at the US Open this year, so about 3 months ago, and we launched our first product, which is called Watson Video Enrichment at IBC, at the International Broadcasters Conference in October. The goal of this first product really is what the title was. It's how do we apply Watson technologies to look at video and automatically tag and determine what's happening inside a video. So not just things like what are you seeing, what are people saying, but what's the emotion that's being conveyed? What are the specific scenes even? So within the product we can automatically detect scenes, understand at a specific point when there's a thematic change inside of content. Some of what we've done with this. The first kind of key use case we talk about is content search and discovery. How do you quickly find information, specifically if you have large archives of data? If something happens in the news, how do I find relevant information that I can then apply to a specific situation? So for instance, something very relevant that happened in the US at least was the wildfires in LA. So there was massive wildfires outside of Los Angeles. One of the use cases was, how do I find when this has happened in the past quickly so that I could pull that information into a relevant news story, for instance. Another key area we focus a lot of attention on is the idea of recommendation uplift. How do I keep people engaged in my subscriber platform or my advertising platform to keep them watching, to keep them interested? And using deep information that I learned from video can help me do that in new ways. If I understand that you like a certain type of program, maybe it's generally just done by genre and actor, but it's probably not necessarily why you watch something. You might have watched it because of the emotion that was conveyed, or because the city it was talking about, or one of 1,000 other types of information that you really can't easily find today. So this gives you a ton of new tools to help you do that. Closed captioning is another key one, and I'll let this one talk for itself for a second.
Sunday men's final 1 versus 3. Novak Djokovic top of your screen against Stan Wawrinka at the bottom. Opening set tiebreak was tight. Third point, the most athletic.
So what you're seeing here is what we did real time for the US Open last year, where Watson was able to apply closed captioning in a live format to the US Open. And that includes everything from getting names like Stan Wawrinka right, to understanding what ace means in tennis, to understanding the difference between love in a tennis scenario and love in a soap opera. Highlight clipping is a key area that we focus on. Highlight clipping, we did this for both the Masters, the US Open, Roland Garros, a lot of the tennis and golf tournaments over the last few years. And what we were able to do in this scenario was look real time as action was happening, clip it, and then assign emotional relevance to a clip so that you could quickly see what were the most relevant or most exciting moments in a clip, and then rank those so that they could then be pushed out to social media to drive more interest into an event. Compliance is another area we focus on. This is extremely important as you try to either regionalize content where laws and regulations might be different in certain countries, as well as just to help protect people that you may not want to see certain types of content. So this includes things like detecting profanity automatically, detecting nudity or sexual or violent content, or potentially even racially sensitive content is really where we're focusing our compliance efforts. Logo identification is another key area for us, and this goes to the heart of what we're talking about today in this conference. How do we quickly identify brands? If I'm an advertiser, how do I understand how effective my brand was? If I'm a content creator, how do I make sure that I'm creating content that's going to help me drive more revenue from the advertisers I care about? So last, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our key case points, and I think I touched on some of these. So one of our initial partners was the USTA with the US Open, where we did both closed captioning and highlight clipping. We worked a lot with TED Talks. This is a content search and discovery scenario. I encourage you to come by the booth to see this demo. It's really interesting, and also you can access it yourself at watson.ted.com. It's an open demo where you can go in and search 2,200 TED videos real time from an open-ended search interface. And then lastly, the Masters is another event where we did both highlight clipping and as well as some closed captioning. So we see, I think this one plays.
Today, came here midway in the afternoon, and we'd already seen a couple of aces by Lowry and Davis.
What you're seeing on the right is where we've assigned the excitement factor to each highlight. And this was a specifically interesting shot. Pretty amazing, and definitely was the highest rated clip according to Watson for the Masters that year. Great. So here's a couple of here's kind of the master list of the customers that we work with today, and it's growing all the time. I think in summary, once again, I encourage you to come by the booth and more about our solutions, and I'm happy to have any kind of conversation around artificial intelligence, our branding, or technology.